Colorado's voting system passwords were posted online for the world to see for months. The state's chief elections official tells me she won't resign, despite this being the latest in a string of errors undermining voter confidence.
We have no reason to believe that there are any security breaches or compromises in the state of Colorado.
With a marquee Trump rally leaning into racism against Latinos, we look at the impact of that vital and growing group of voters in Colorado.
It's important that they speak to Latinos about their visions.
This state's getting federal tax money to improve train tracks, with the long-term goal of passenger rail north of Denver. And we take you to a city determined to throw shade at its own citizens.
We're hoping it just has like a long-term ripple effect in building a thriving urban forest.
That's tonight on Next. Passwords for Colorado's voting systems were posted online for anyone to see for months, if you knew where to look. Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold's office apparently posted them online by accident. Griswold's office found out last Thursday and had not told the county clerks who actually run elections. Then the Colorado Republican Party went public today, demanding that Griswold secure those voting machines. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
The Colorado Secretary of State's office is required to maintain a spreadsheet of certified voting systems for each county. That's this list. At the bottom of any spreadsheet, you can have multiple tabs. You can also hide a tab. But if you post the raw spreadsheet to a public website, apparently anyone can also unhide the tab. This happened and apparently revealed one set of passwords for voting computers in Colorado. Next confirmed this with the Secretary of State's office today, but we learned about it this morning in an email blast from the Colorado Republican Party. The passwords had been up for months without it being known, and some, but not all, were current and active.
There are 2 passwords to get into any voting component along with physical access.
Democratic Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold explained how each computer component requires 2 passwords to gain access. The ones on the website were just one of the passwords, and it requires in-person access by multiple people, which is tracked by 24/7 video recording and badge IDs that record who has gained access.
We have layers of security, and out of just an abundance of caution, have staff in the field changing passwords, looking at access logs.
The truth is this a concern? Yes. Is it being mitigated? Yes. Does this mean that all of the computers are connected to the internet and that votes are being flipped? No.
Matt Crane is the former Republican Arapahoe County Clerk and current Executive Director of the County Clerks Association. He admits this is not great news, but not something that will compromise anyone's vote.
I want to stress here, this isn't all Republicans, but you will have some Republicans who will use this for political and financial purposes, whereas we as clerks, we will stay in the truth and honoring our oath of office to serve our constituents in a truthful and honest manner.
Well, that spreadsheet that you just saw scrolling is a visible spreadsheet on the Secretary of State's website under Voting System Inventory, and I just clicked on it fresh here, and it's a blank white spreadsheet, so apparently work in progress right now. Delete it all instead of just delete the hidden tab.
Secretary of State's office rightly points out that this alone cannot compromise the election system. There'd have to be somebody on the inside with physical access to a machine to use these passwords. But for people who don't have faith in the election system, or people who are wondering, this is a hell of an error.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I've learned something about spreadsheets, that if you hit hide, that someone could unhide it. But look at it this way. It's like if you're worried about who has missile control and it takes 2 keys. I'm thinking in the movie Crimson Tide. You've got one person with the key and turned, and you need that second person who works at the county that has access to this other password. That person would have to do something too. And even then, it's not clear if you could do anything about votes that were in the system or that will be counted. You could just be changing the system of the computer, like, hey, we're going to be Central Time instead of Mountain Time, stuff like that. But you need 2 people, and this is just one bit of information that one person would need, and you're still lacking the second person with that second bit of information.
As much as we stress it, I feel like you can hear the conspiracy theories being born of this error. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. Secretary Griswold told me today that she had not decided whether to tell you, the public, about that password leak before she got called out on it publicly today. I asked Secretary Griswold whether she takes responsibility for this election security breach in the same way that she has held others accountable, and we discussed a string of errors by her office that can damage voter confidence.
To be very clear, we do not see this as a full security threat to the state. This is not a security threat.
You do frequent media interviews warning of the insider threats to elections. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security defines an insider threat as somebody who uses authorized access wittingly or unwittingly to do harm. Did the actions of your office pose an insider threat to elections?
No.
In 2021, when Mesa County's voting system passwords leaked, your office said, quote, "The public disclosure of the BIOS passwords for one or more components of Mesa County's voting system alone constitutes a serious breach of voting system security protocols." By that standard, did your office commit a serious breach of voting system security protocols?
Well, to push back on you, Kyle, that sentence is in the press release, but there is a much bigger press release. And part of that investigation in Mesa County was 2 sets of passwords, unauthorized access, stolen passwords, and it was in a different time. Since 2021 and what happened in Mesa County, our security has improved, including the 24/7 hour cameras, including the badge and access. The law has been significantly strengthened since then. We have multiple layers in place to ensure situations like Mesa County don't occur, and that is not what is occurring here.
This is not the first time that your office has made mistakes that have damaged voters' confidence in our elections. In 2022, your office sent out mailers to 30,000 non-citizens inviting them to register to vote. They, of course, are not eligible to register to vote. That same year, your office used Colorado's ballot tracking system to send messages to specific Coloradans encouraging them to vote when, in fact, they had already voted, causing confusion that had to be cleaned up by the county clerks. And now this leak of the voting system passwords. Given your office's repeated errors that have damaged confidence in our elections, which you say is paramount, will you resign?
Absolutely not, Kyle. And I just want to, you're unfairly characterizing and leaving out some crucial information. We came out immediately and said a postcard had been sent out to people who are ineligible. The postcard clearly stated that someone had to be a U.S. citizen. No one tried to register from that group of people. We were actively tracking it. And it became a situation where no one registered. And to push back even further, Kyle, Colorado is tied for #1 in confidence in the country in our elections. We have stood up to situations time and time again to protect the right of Coloradans, going over and beyond what anybody would ask of civil servants in this office.
Given the number of fundamental errors that your office has made that have undermined voter confidence in elections, why do you think they keep happening?
Why do errors happen? Kyle, there are unfortunately situations that arise every election that we are fixing as quickly as possible in the counties and once in a while from my office too.
In my full 15-minute interview with Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold, she explains why she had not yet told county election clerks about the password leak and why she might not have told the public at all. That full unedited interview is on the next YouTube channel and on 9news.com. There's a ballot printing error that's going to make for a lot of work for election judges in 3 rural counties because not one of the ballots sent out in Moffett, Los Animas, and Huerfano counties can be scanned into a machine. They're all going to have to be copied over by hand. The Moffett County clerk says a printing vendor messed up what are called the timing marks. They're black lines on the edge of the ballot tabulator tracks. All those votes will still be counted. Just means that judges have to copy over every voter's choices from their original ballot onto a new blank ballot. That process is not unheard of. It's already used if there's a damaged or unscannable ballot that comes in. The clerk's now asking for more help, more election judges in Moffett, Los Animas, and Huerfano counties to sign up to process as many as 24,000 ballots by hand. Donald Trump's big closing message rally in Madison Square Garden featured speakers mocking a variety of religious and ethnic groups with particular racism directed at Latinos. An interesting strategy given that population's increasing number and voting power. Here's Angeline McCall.
On Sunday, a Trump rally with so-called jokes about Puerto Rico being an island of garbage and about Latinos having babies. Jokes that many interpreted as attacks.
I do think the Latinos in Colorado care about how we treat each other. Certainly when we feel attacked, certainly Latino voters in Colorado will react.
President and CEO of Voces Unidas Action Fund says just within a week to go until the election, the Latino electorate matters and what's said about them.
Every 30 seconds in this country, a Latino turns 18 and is now eligible to vote because they were born in this country. That's a big, powerful statistic.
Here in the state of Colorado, Latinos make up about 17% of all eligible voters, according to MSU professor Robert Preuss.
Any one particular group that might be swayed either to get out and vote or change their preferences a little bit really does matter.
In Colorado, roughly 65% are Mexican Americans. Then folks from Puerto Rico and El Salvador and South America make up most of the rest.
You know, there's a concept called linked fate, the sense that there is some effect on your own personal lives when statements are made, broadly against groups that you share a common background.
Which means that what politicians say about one group matters to the rest, especially when the largest group of Latino voters remain unaffiliated in the state of Colorado.
But one thing is for sure, we're not Florida, we're not Texas. And so we are not seeing the big shifts in ideology year to year. Our data does not support that.
Most still lean Democratic, according to Voces Unidas, with their top concerns being cost of living and housing. Instead of attacks, Sanchez says this is an opportunity to address what matters the most to Latinos instead.
Latinas and Latinos will be the deciding factor.
Professor Preuss says this election really is about margins. So when Puerto Ricans were attacked on Sunday, we know that they make up a small percentage here in Colorado, but in swing states, we know there are about 900,000 of them, and in Pennsylvania alone, 500,000. Couple that with the fact that the most efficient route to the White House specifically for Kamala Harris is to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. You can see why that 500,000 could be pivotal if they do take offense to what was just said 2 days ago. Kyle.
Interesting, and very interesting to hear how Colorado's Latino population might move in some different ways than other states. Really good stuff. Angeline, thank you. So Colorado's going to get a bunch of taxpayer money from the feds to expand passenger rails on the Front Range. $66 million to improve the BNSF railway from the Westminster station to the west side of Broomfield. The governor said this is part of a plan to bring passenger rail access to communities along the Front Range where only freight trains run right now. The money will be used to install signaling and control systems required for passenger rails. The state says right now the tracks from Westminster clear up to the Wyoming line do not have that technology. Denver Health gets a little change tossed its way to pay for care for people living on the streets, as the hospital is currently asking voters for a lot more help.
One of the biggest issues that we face here in Brighton is just overall establishment of trees.
Brighton does not have a shady reputation. It would like one. That's next. Denver Health is getting nearly $1 million from the city to improve service for people who live on the streets. City Council unanimously approved a contract to pay for services at the Safety Net Hospital related to the Roads to Recovery program. That's the mayor's project to move 200 people with addiction or mental health issues out of jails and into treatment and rehabilitation. Denver Health is simultaneously asking for quite a bit more money from voters. It's asking voters in Denver to approve a 0.34% sales tax increase with the hopes to bring in $70 million a year to cover the cost of uncompensated care. Denver Health says if the tax measure fails and the hospital can't get more state or federal reimbursement, it would consider cutting services.
Hi there, I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team meteorologist Kathy Sabin, tracking a big change in our weather. Yesterday, 82 degrees, today 61. Clouds and wind increasing ahead of a storm that will bring our first hard freeze and maybe some snow tomorrow. Temperatures this hour still very warm in eastern Colorado. We've cooled back to the mid-40s in Denver, and this current reading might bear a high temperature tomorrow. When the storm rolls out, we go into a freeze warning, hard freeze conditions tomorrow night for lows as low as 20 22 degrees. The gusty winds out of the west and southwest have created elevated fire danger, but the red flag warning has thankfully been scaled back. This is the storm, the center of circulation over northern Colorado, bringing some beneficial snow to the mountains, and there will be more snow tonight with a winter weather advisory posted for up to a foot of snow by tomorrow above 9,000 feet. This storm will impact you in Denver. As cold air will settle in, we should see some scattered showers later tonight, mixing with snow tomorrow morning. Heavy mountain snow continues, and we could see the season's first snow tomorrow. Temperatures are trending downward, but it's just a 24-hour event, and of course we'll have much more on this tonight on 9 News at 9 and 10.
When trees grow up, the temperature drops. The city of Brighton is determined to not be so bright. That's next. I don't know why tree hugger is pejorative, you know? Trees are amazing. They filter out harmful pollutants like ozone, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide. They offer shade that keeps us healthier and more comfortable. Here's to the new trees going up in 11 cities around Colorado.
Brighton is, kind of a bedroom community of the city of Denver. It's a little over 40,000 residents, about 20 miles from the city. Hey, I'm Patrick LaPhillip. I work as the city forester for the city of Brighton. We were recently one of about, I want to say 10 awardees across the state of Colorado that received grant funds from the Colorado State Forest Service via the Inflation Reduction Act.
This is an influx of funding that urban forestry has never seen before and probably will never see again. My name is Corey Carpenter. I am a tree equity specialist with the Colorado State Forest Service. It's focused on enhancing canopy in historically underfunded or disproportionately impacted areas. With this funding, we had of $1.6 million for this year and then $1 million for the 2 following years, 2025 and 2026.
A lot of times communities of the size of Brighton just don't have the same amount of resources to compete directly with federal grants like some larger cities like Denver do.
We have 11 awardees in 8 counties all throughout Colorado, and they're doing some really exciting projects. Most are focused on tree planting projects, but we do have a couple focused on tree removal projects. Tree maintenance and removal is really expensive. It's a huge barrier for people who may not be able to otherwise afford it, and it helps kind of gain that trust between a community and its residents.
We were just ecstatic. I mean, we're kind of chomping at the bits to get this project started and start getting trees established into some much needed areas.
A lot of these communities don't have urban forestry departments. They don't have arborists on staff. And so it's really kind of a kickstart for developing these programs for these communities.
We're hoping it just has like a long-term ripple effect in building a thriving urban forest.
How embarrassed would you be if I sang you happy birthday again?
Really embarrassed.
Really? Once is enough?
Really
Okay.
embarrassed.
It's her birthday, everybody. Happy birthday, Marissa. Back with the feedback next. Earlier on Next, Marshall tried to bring up the spreadsheet from the Secretary of State's website. It wouldn't load on his screen, but we're told it is working on the Secretary of State's website if you want to go check it out without seeing any voting system passwords. Tim says, why would those passwords not be kept in encrypted files totally separate from everything else with limited access? I don't know, makes sense to me, Tim, but I don't run elections. But I'll see you next time.